For this episode of the meal prep series, we're making bolognese. There might be a couple of ingredients in this recipe that you might not be familiar with going into a bolognese, but they really transform the flavor. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alright, starting out, we're going to need 200 grams of streaky bacon or middle bacon, which is what I've got here. We're going to slice these into thin strips, then rotate them 90 degrees and dice into nice small pieces. We're going to be using the bacon fat instead of oil, and this is going to really enhance the flavor of our whole dish. For the vegetables, we're going to need 2 brown or yellow onions, 2 whole carrots that have been washed, and 2 ribs of celery. We're going to grate all 3 of these along the larger side of a box grater. This is going to extract the most flavor out of all of these as their compounds or the enzymes that hold their flavor are broken down more. Next is 4 cloves of freshly peeled garlic. We're going to run these along a microplane into a bowl with the grated vegetables that we did before, and this is going to extract the most allicin, which is the compound that gives garlic its strong flavor, and just make sure you scrape it all in there to avoid any waste. I'm using fresh herbs for this recipe. You're more than welcome to use dried if you wanted to, and right here I have 10 grams of rosemary, 10 grams of basil, and 10 grams of oregano. All 3 of them can be roughly chopped, and I have removed the leaves from the stems, and then we're going to place the oregano and the rosemary into a separate bowl from the basil because we're going to be using them at 2 different times in the recipe. An optional ingredient, just like the bacon, is 150 grams of sun-dried tomatoes. These are strips and they're in oil. I've just removed them from the oil and just kept that for another recipe. And then we're going to roughly chop these, breaking them down into nice small pieces. These add a beautiful concentrated tomato flavor, but if you don't like them, you don't have to use them. With the prep out the way, we can get cooking. Place a large pan or pot over a medium-high heat. Whilst it's cold, add in all of that bacon, and then we're going to fry this off for about 3 minutes, just for the fat to start rendering. This is literally just extracting the fat from the bacon. We don't want too much color, and obviously we don't want to burn it. That's why it's over a low heat. Once that has achieved, we're going to add in all of those vegetables that we grated, including the garlic as well. Season it to taste with some salt. This will help extract some of the moisture, and then we're going to saute this for about 5 minutes, just until it becomes nice and dry. We want to cook out most of the moisture. We're then going to add in 500 grams of beef mince as well as 250 grams of pork mince. Both of them are a 90% lean to 10% fat ratio. And what we're going to do is break this up, mix it around, and we're going to cook this for about 4 minutes, just until it's no longer pink. We're not looking to cook it all the way right now because we will be cooking this longer in the next step. Next is to deglaze the pan with 180 milliliters of red wine. If you can't consume alcohol, use beef or chicken stock. Then we're going to season to taste with sea salt flakes as well as cracked black pepper. And I actually broke my pepper mill, unfortunately, so I'm using some pre-ground stuff. With that all in though, just mix and cook for 3 minutes, just until the wine has reduced by half. Add in 2 cans, which is 800 grams of diced tomatoes, as well as a splash of water just to clean it out, make sure we don't waste any of this good stuff. Then we can add in the sun-dried tomatoes if you're going to be using them, as well as the rosemary and the oregano. Then give it a really good mix through so those flavors can become friends. Then we're going to bring it to a boil, check it for seasoning and adjust if necessary with sea salt flakes and cracked black pepper. If you added it in, give it another quick mix through. Then we can place on a lid, reduce the heat to low, and then cook this for about 35 to 40 minutes undisturbed. Now 20 minutes before the bolognese is ready, place a large pot of water over a high heat, place on a lid to speed things up, then once it is at a boil, carefully remove the lid, generously season with salt, and then we're going to add in 600 grams of a pasta of your choice. For this recipe I am using penne, and then we're just going to give this a quick mix through just to prevent it from sticking together, and then cook it as per the packet instructions, or 1 minute less if you want it to be a little bit more firmer, then just remove and drain. Going back to the bolognese, we can carefully remove the lid, give it a really good stir through to mix all of those risen flavors, and then we're going to add in that basil that we chopped earlier. We don't add it straight away with all of the other stuff just because this browns off really quickly and actually loses its flavor. It's better to add this right at the end. We're then going to check it for seasoning one more time and then remove it from the stovetop. As for serving up, I'm using Lavelli's 1.3 litre containers. I'm using 5 of them, and with the pasta it's 160 grams worth per container. For the bolognese, it's roughly 350 to 400 grams into each container as well, and then we can garnish with some Parmesan cheese, which is optional, as well as fresh basil leaves, which you can do now or when you're ready to serve. It's completely up to you. But with all of that done, we're left with this beautiful bolognese that looks amazing and smells fantastic too. As for these now, we can let them cool down for about 20 minutes before placing on the lids, put them in the fridge for up to 4 days. If you're not going to eat them after 3 days, put them in the freezer. They'll last up to 4 months in the freezer. The best thing that's left to do is, of course, we can then dig in. This meal right here is one of those dishes that I grew up eating when I was a kid. Brings back so many memories. I love these types of foods, especially with all of those fresh herbs in there. Really brings out a great flavor. Obviously you can use dried herbs if you want, and I'll have details about that in the description. But you definitely have to try this recipe. It tastes absolutely fantastic.
If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.